Have you ever felt like someone else owned your emotions, like your peace was living in their pocket, not your heart? What if the pain of letting go isn't about love at all, but about breaking an invisible chain you've mistaken for connection? Because the moment you learn to detach not out of spite, but out of strength, you stop needing their presence to feel whole again. Emotional attachment can feel like a prison without bars. You're not alone if you've ever found yourself caught in a loop of holding on, even when your mind tells you it's time to let go. The weight of that emotional bond of memories, hopes, and unspoken what-ifs can leave you powerless, unsure whether you're still loving someone or just afraid of what life looks like without them. But here's the truth that Stoicism reveals. Freedom is always closer than it feels. Inspired by the timeless wisdom of Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca, this video is not just a guide, it's a shift in perspective. You're about to discover 10 Stoic rules that'll help you emotionally detach, not by becoming numb, but by becoming clear. Because detachment isn't about coldness. As Seneca reminds us, he who is brave is free, and nothing requires more bravery than walking away from what no longer serves your peace. You're going to learn how to loosen the invisible grip that attachment has on your mind. You'll see how shifting your focus inward toward clarity, presence, and intention frees you from chasing what you can't control. Stoic detachment is not avoidance, it's awareness. It's the courage to say, my happiness is mine to protect. My emotions are mine to govern. My life is mine to reclaim. Imagine saying goodbye to the mental shackles that have followed you from relationship to relationship, season to season. Imagine no longer measuring your worth by how someone else treats you. Imagine finding stillness, finally not in their approval, but in your own presence. As Marcus Aurelius once said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. So, if you're ready to stop surviving your emotions and start mastering them, this is your moment. The journey begins now. 10 Stoic habits, 10 shifts in mindset. 1. Return to your power. And if you're walking this path with us, leave a comment below and type, emotional freedom starts now. Not just to say it, but to mean it. Let's begin. Part 1. The emotional trap, why we struggle to let go. Have you ever felt like your emotions were a puppet hand someone else was pulling the strings? That somewhere along the way, you handed over your inner peace to a person, a memory, or a version of the future that never even arrived? This is where the Stoic principle of detachment begins, not with coldness, but with clarity. The power of detachment. Detachment doesn't mean shutting off your heart. It means taking back the remote to your mind. Most of us don't realize how much of our emotional life is outsourced, how easily we let someone's presence or absence decide our mood, our decisions, even our sense of worth. But the moment you understand this, you gain something rare: choice. Epictetus once said, we suffer not from the events in our lives, but from our judgment about them. Stoicism teaches us this core idea. It's not what happens to you that defines your pain, it's how tightly you cling to the story. When you over-attach, you let someone else flip through the channels of your emotions. Joy, sadness, jealousy, despair, all controlled by someone else's behavior. Imagine your emotions like a kite, each string tied to a person, a role, an expectation. The more you hold on, the more turbulent the wind becomes. You can't control the wind, but Stoicism teaches you to choose which strings you still want to grip. Detachment, then, is not abandonment. It's alignment. It's saying, I can love you, but I will no longer collapse if you walk away. So, how do you start detaching? First, Get radically honest. What or who are you clinging to? Is it their validation? Fear of being alone? Guilt? Nostalgia? Whatever it is, shine a light on it. Because only what is seen can be dissolved. Next, shift your energy toward what you can control. Your routine, your habits, your purpose. Anchor yourself in rituals that build self-respect. Wake early. Move your body. Read. Reflect. Create. As you do this, something powerful happens. You no longer depend on others to feel centered. You realize your peace has always lived inside you, buried beneath the noise. And like Seneca said, he who is brave is free. To detach is not to feel less, it's to stop surrendering your peace every time someone pulls away. Understanding attachment. Why do we cling so tightly, even when we know it hurts? The Stoics believe the answer lies in the ego. Epictetus said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. The more we want something or someone, the more power we give away." Most attachment isn't love. It's fear dressed as desire. Fear of being forgotten. Fear of not being enough. Fear that if they leave, we disappear. And here's the painful irony. The more you chase, the more invisible you become. True connection can only exist where ego has let go. But most of us are still living through our wound-seeking closure, through attention, healing through control. That's not love, that's survival. Think of a baby radiant, curious, joyful, no ego, no attachments, just presence. But as we grow, the ego takes the driver's seat. We begin to crave approval, possession, permanence. That's when we lose ourselves. We attach to people, to outcomes, to ideals that aren't even ours, and each one adds another weight to carry. To detach, begin by noticing. What need is this attachment feeding? Is it identity? Safety? Significance? When you trace the attachment back to the wound, it begins to dissolve. Now flip the perspective. What if life was happening for you, not to you? What if every disconnection was redirection? What if letting go was not the end, but the beginning of who you really are? Because when you stop seeing people as your person and start seeing them as your mirror, you heal faster. You realize nothing that belongs to your soul will ever need to be chased. And anything that must be chased was never truly yours. This is the mindset shift of a Stoic. You move from craving to clarity, from holding to flowing, from fear to freedom. And in that space, you stop asking why they left. You start asking, what did they reveal about what I still needed to heal? That's the real power of detachment. Part 2. Breaking illusions. Ego, control, internal freedom. The illusion of control. How many times have you convinced yourself that if you just said the right thing, acted the right way, gave just a little more, you'd finally get the love, the response, the outcome you've been hoping for? It's one of the greatest traps of the ego belief that if we try hard enough, we can control how others feel about us. That if we just show up perfectly, they'll never leave. But that's not control. That's a quiet kind of slavery. The Stoics saw this clearly. Epictetus taught, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. And Marcus Aurelius echoed, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The truth is hard to swallow, but it's liberating. You don't control outcomes. You don't control other people's choices. What you do control is where you place your attention, your energy, and your sense of self-worth. The illusion of control tricks us into thinking we're being strong when we're actually being dependent. It convinces us that their approval validates our identity, that their silence reflects our worth. But when you strip that illusion away, what do you find? Just two humans flawed, vulnerable, no one above or beneath the other. And suddenly, the pedestal you place them on collapses. To break this illusion, start by acknowledging what's truly in your hands: your thoughts, your reactions, your next step. Instead of spiraling into, "Why didn't they?" shift into, "What can I do now?" Practice self-affirmation. Remind yourself daily that your value isn't up for debate. It's not awarded or revoked based on who stays or who drifts away. That power, it belongs to you and you alone. Adopting an abundance mindset reinforces this shift. When you stop fearing the loss of one person, one outcome, one version of happiness, the world expands. You begin to love without grasping. You begin to give without expecting. You begin to connect from strength, not survival. That's what makes emotional detachment powerful, not because you care less, but because you finally understand better. Detachment is not disengagement. It's emotional clarity. It's choosing to be whole, whether they stay, leave, respond, or disappear. Because your completeness was never in the myth, was in your ability to return to yourself. Detachment in practice. You know the theory. You've read the quotes. But how do you actually detach when everything inside you is screaming to hold on? That's the challenge and the gift. Think of your attachment like a rope burning through your hands. You're gripping so tightly that it's hurting you, but you're scared to let go, because the unknown feels even scarier than the pain you've come to normalize. But here's the reality. Sometimes letting go doesn't mean falling, it means finally reaching, stretching, healing. Detachment begins with redefining what you think you're losing. You're not losing love, you're losing an illusion. You're not losing security, you're stepping away from a dependency. You're not falling behind, you're stepping into alignment. When I finally let go of a relationship that felt comfortable, I realized it wasn't comfort, it was fear wearing a familiar face. I wasn't choosing love. I was avoiding change. And then there's the FOMO, trapped the fear of missing out. Social media whispers lies into our minds. Everyone's highlight reel becomes your comparison yardstick. But let me remind you, no one posts their confusion. No one filters their loneliness. The grass looks greener because you're seeing it from a distance. Up close, it has the same dead spots as yours. You don't need to chase filtered illusions. You need to return to your life, your breath, your path. You're not missing out, you're missing in. Every moment you spend trying to control someone else's response is a moment you've abandoned yourself. Stop scrolling, start building. The Stoics would tell you, define happiness on your own terms. Not through possession, not through attention, through presence. Practice the art of letting go, not because you gave up, but because you grew up. Not because you didn't care, but because you finally cared enough about your own peace. You are not what they see in you. You are what you build within you. And when you truly live from that place of stillness, of choice, of clarity, you stop asking how to be enough, because you already are. Part 3. The foundation of inner happiness. Letting go isn't the end of the story. It's the beginning of a new one. One where you move forward, not empty, but lighter. Not bitter, but free. A story where you are no longer anchored to someone else's mood, presence, or validation. This is where true life begins, not at the edge of attachment, but in the center of awareness. The path to happiness. Why does happiness often feel like something just out of reach? Like it's always hiding in someone else's approval or dangling from the next big achievement? The Stoics offer a radical answer. Happiness is not something you chase. It's something you uncover, not from others, but from within. Epictetus once said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." That single sentence, when truly absorbed, changes everything. It shifts your attention from the outside world, its noise, its competition, its false promises, and brings it home to yourself. You begin to realize true value doesn't come from being wanted. It comes from knowing who you are, even when no one's watching. When we cling to someone, hoping they'll make us feel whole, we reduce our vast inner world to the size of their gaze. That's not love. That's emotional poverty. Imagine a bird born to fly, believing it needs permission to spread its wings. That's what it's like when you forget your happiness has always been yours to claim, not theirs to give. Emotional detachment doesn't mean you love less, it means you stop negotiating your joy. It's the moment you decide, I will no longer let someone's silence shape my self-worth. I will no longer allow inconsistency to breed self-doubt. Because I am not missing a piece. I am not broken. I am not waiting for someone else to validate the masterpiece that is still unfolding within me. This is where your power returns, not in rejecting others, but in reconnecting with yourself. You begin to nurture your life the way a gardener tends to soil, not demanding any one flower to bloom, but trusting that if you care for your inner world, it will blossom. Whether someone chooses to admire it or not is no longer your concern. And slowly, you notice the shift. You stop pleading for connection. You stop proving your worth. You stop shrinking for attention. And in that stillness, in that sacred pause between what left and what's to come, you meet someone incredible yourself. The one person who will never abandon you, who always deserved your presence, but was buried beneath all the noise. This is what Stoicism teaches. To build a life where happiness is not conditional, where peace is not reactive, where love begins at home, in your thoughts, your habits, your way of seeing the world. So let go, not because you're tired, but because you're ready. Ready to rise from the ashes of who you were when you thought they completed you. Ready to see that your sky has always been open and you were always the one with wings. Part 4. Living in the now. Presence over pain. Embrace the present moment. How much of your life is spent chasing what already left or fearing what hasn't even arrived? How many peaceful moments have been stolen by yesterday's ghosts or tomorrow's worries? If you find yourself constantly rehashing the past or rehearsing the future, you're not alone, but you're also not presentant. That is where the suffering begins. The Stoics didn't just teach resilience, they taught presence. Marcus Aurelius said, "Confine yourself to the present." A simple instruction, yet one that holds immense power. Because when your mind lives in the past, it clings to loss. When it races into the future, it grips fear. And in both cases, you're missing the only space where healing can actually happen. Now. To live in the present doesn't mean ignoring your memories or ambitions. It means refusing to be ruled by them. It means savoring the meal instead of replaying old conversations. It means hearing someone's voice instead of wondering what they'll say next. It means breathing not to calm anxiety, but to remind yourself that you're still here, still alive, still grounded. Mindfulness is the practical tool that unlocks this power. And it doesn't require incense, mountains, or silence. It requires attention. Feel your footsteps on the pavement. Hear the birds outside your window. Taste your morning coffee with full awareness. These tiny rituals, done intentionally, pull you out of the storm and anchor you in calm. Detachment becomes easier when you're rooted in what's real, and nothing is more real than the present. When you truly live in the now, regrets fade. what-ifs shrink. And suddenly, the person you once couldn't let go of, they lose their grip, because your grip on this moment just became stronger. Gratitude is the final step in presence. Begin noticing what is instead of what's missing. The sound of rain, a deep breath, a quiet hour. These aren't distractions. They're reminders that happiness was never somewhere else. It was always hidden in what you rushed past. Reframe your thoughts. If the present is where peace begins, then your thoughts are the gatekeepers. Because how you think determines how you feel, and most emotional pain isn't born from reality, but from interpretation. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." If your inner world is constantly painted in black and white drama, fear, scarcity, your emotions will mirror that palette. But here's the good news. You can change the color. You can reframe. Reframing isn't lying to yourself. It's telling the truth from a higher perspective. Start by identifying your most painful recurring thoughts. The ones that say, "I can't live without them. I'll never find love again. My happiness depended on that relationship." Now ask, are these thoughts absolutely true or just emotionally loud? In most cases, you'll find that what feels true isn't. It's fear, dressed up as logic. When you challenge those beliefs, they weaken. When you replace them, you begin to heal. Instead of, "I'll never find someone else," try, "There are many beautiful connections still waiting for me." Instead of, "I can't let go," try, "I'm learning to release what no longer aligns with my peace." Write down new thoughts, repeat them, make them your inner vocabulary. These are not affirmations to feel good, they're reinforcements to rewire your mind. And the more you repeat them, the less space fear has to grow. Pair this with meditation. Even 5 minutes a day of focused breath and quiet awareness can train your brain to pause before spiraling. It's in that pause that you reclaim your power. It's in that stillness that the voice of truth becomes louder than the voice of fear. Your thoughts are not facts, they're filters, and you don't have to live your life through a dirty lens. So, the next time pain knocks, don't react, reframe, and watch how quickly your mind begins to shift back into your hands. Part 5. Guarding your peace. Self-protection through boundaries. Sometimes the most powerful way to detach is to protect. Not by building walls, but by drawing lines. Because emotional freedom doesn't begin when others change. It begins when you decide what you will and will not tolerate. Set healthy boundaries. Do you ever find yourself saying yes when your soul is screaming no? Do you carry emotional burdens that don't belong to you just to keep the peace? This isn't love. This is self-abandonment. Setting healthy boundaries is not selfish, it's self-preservation. It's saying, my peace matters, my time matters, my emotional space is sacred. The Stoics didn't just teach us how to endure pain, they taught us how to prevent it. And nothing prevents unnecessary suffering more effectively than clear, compassionate boundaries. A boundary is not a rejection, it's a definition. It marks where you end and someone else begins. Without that clarity, emotions blur. You begin absorbing other people's moods. You start mistaking their approval for your self-worth. You lose yourself trying to keep everyone else comfortable. So, how do you set them? Start by identifying what drains you, what conversations leave you anxious, what behaviors cross your inner line. Then communicate, not aggressively, but firmly. Say, I need space. That doesn't work for me. I'm not available for this energy. You don't need to explain, justify, or over-apologize. You're not asking for permission, you're stating your truth. Boundaries are a form of emotional hygiene. You don't shower once and expect to stay clean. You set, maintain, and adjust as life shifts. And over time, something beautiful happens. The people who respect your peace remain. The ones who don't, quietly fall away. That is how you build a circle rooted in mutual respect, not silent resentment. When you honor your boundaries, you reinforce a truth that changes everything. My worth isn't measured by how much I endure. It's measured by how consistently I protect my own peace. Engage in self-care. Self-care is not a luxury. It's a responsibility. It's how you tell your nervous system, you are safe. It's how you tell your inner child, I've got you. And it's how you remind your adult self, I don't need someone else to make me feel alive. Seneca once said, a sound mind in a sound body is a short but full description of a happy state. And that's the truth when your body, mind, and spirit are cared for. You no longer cling to others for balance. You become your own sanctuary. So what does self-care look like for a Stoic? It's movement because your body holds energy that your mind can't process. It's exercise not for appearance, but for power, for clarity, for emotional momentum. It's breath work and meditation not to escape reality, but to return to it with strength. But self-care is also joy, creativity, play, paint, write, walk, sing, garden, build something with your hands. These moments pull you back into your aliveness. They remind you that you are more than your pain, that you are not just healing, you are living. And don't forget your community. Surround yourself with people who don't just tolerate you, but see you, uplift you, and call you to your highest standard. Choose conversations that energize. Choose environments that nourish. Choose solitude not as a punishment, but as a celebration of self-connection. Self-care is how you come back to life after losing yourself in someone else. It's how you rebuild your identity without needing external glue. Because when you care for yourself consistently, you stop needing others to rescue you. You become your own anchor. And in that space, you realize something powerful. You're no longer surviving, you're rising. Part 6. Letting go through gratitude. Letting go is often framed as loss, as absence, as an ending. But in the Stoic tradition, letting go is something else entirely. It's clarity, it's liberation, and most of all, it's gratitude. Practice gratitude. You cannot be grateful and bitter at the same time. You cannot dwell in regret and gratitude simultaneously. One disarms the other. That's why gratitude is not just a warm feeling, it's a weapon against attachment. Think of the things you've had to release, people. Expectations, illusions. Instead of mourning them endlessly, what if you could thank them? Thank them for the lesson. Thank them for revealing what you truly value. Thank them for showing you where your self-worth was still outsourced. Every person who left, every plan that failed, every story that didn't unfold the way you imagined, each one was a mirror. And gratitude is the way you stop smashing the mirror and start understanding the reflection. Gratitude doesn't mean you deny the pain. It means you outgrow its grip. It means you honor what was without needing to carry it into what's next. When you wake up and start your day, not by thinking about what's missing, but by noticing what remains, that's emotional power. So pause, breathe, look around, you're alive. You've endured things you once thought would break you. You've loved, lost, and learned. You're wiser now, lighter, closer to yourself than you've ever been. That's something worth thanking life for. Gratitude is how you close the loop without closing your heart. It's how you release what hurt you without resenting it. It's how you detach without becoming distant. When you can say, "I'm thankful this happened, even if it didn't stay," you've mastered the deepest form of Stoic detachment. Because the truth is gratitude is the final act of letting go. You've just walked through 10 Stoic truths, not to escape your emotions, but to understand them. Not to run from people, but to return to yourself. And now you know, peace isn't something you find. It's something you protect. If this message spoke to a quiet place inside you, type, "I choose peace over attachment" in the comments. Not just for us, but for the version of you that's finally ready to let go. And if you're walking this path with us, subscribe. Not for content, but for clarity. Because here, we don't chase emotions. We master them.